I did my research project on the mechanisms of concussions in female soccer players at a Division III institution. And so this is just what a concussion is: a blow to the head followed by a variety of symptoms. And it can also be a blow to the torso or chest if it jars the head enough. And then some of the symptoms you can have with a concussion is headache, dizziness, loss of balance, blurred vision, slowed reaction time, poor memory, nausea, vomiting, sleep problems, mood swings, irritability. And then here's a pretty picture for the anatomy, and it's about the brain, that the brain sits inside the skull. It's not actually attached really to anything. Then you have your frontal lobe, and this controls like emotions, memory, language, type of things. And then the parietal lobe, it will tell you like hot and cold, so you can feel that, how that's interpreted, pain, touch. And then you have the temporal lobe, and this is auditory information from the ear. So this helps a lot with children developing like hearing, that they can actually understand the language ahead of time before they actually start talking. And then the occipital lobe, this receives input from the retina for the eye, so this helps with a lot of visual communication, images. And then this I thought was really cool. It shows you where on the brain everything does everything. And then you also have the brain stem, and this is consisted of the pons, the medulla, and the midbrain. And this affects a lot of involuntary things such as breathing, digestive, cardiac functions. So this part gets injured, that can really affect them. They can have even behavior problems with that. And then before I get my hypothesis, I'll do the mechanisms that I looked at. I looked at head to ground contact, contact with another player, head to soccer ball contact, and head-to-head collision while heading the ball. And then my hypothesis was that head-to-head collision while heading the ball would be the most common mechanism. I also thought that head-to-head collision would have the most severe symptoms versus any of the other ones. And then some of the long-term effects of concussions would be second impact syndrome, post-concussion syndrome, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And with second impact syndrome, most of the time with this, they end up going back to play before their symptoms with their first concussion has disappeared and they get hit again. This happens when either they're not cleared or maybe they're fibbing about their symptoms because they want to go back to play. And this can also result in like long-term effects, so having just memory problems in general throughout their life. With post-concussion syndrome, this is when their symptoms go along for at least a month or longer, can go years, can go a couple weeks, can go a couple months. So they could have reoccurring headaches, they could have problems with balance following their concussion. And then CT, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy, this is normally from repeated concussions. It is a degenerative condition of the brain, and their cognitive function slowly decreases over time. You can see that a lot with football and boxing. So for my subjects, I emailed 21 and 16 emails from the Emory Community College women's soccer team responded. I had 7 freshmen, 4 sophomores, 2 juniors, and 3 seniors. So I had the most freshmen. I had 2 goalkeepers, 5 forwards, 4 midfielders, and 5 defense players. And they ranged from age 18 to 22. And in order to be in the to take the survey, they had to be on the soccer team. So for my instrumentation, I created a survey from scratch. I used 11 open and closed-ended questions, and 2 of them I used the Likert scale. I created my own survey because I couldn't find one that was looking at what I wanted to look at with the mechanisms. A lot of the studies referred to one, but then you couldn't find where the actual tool was. And then my procedure, I emailed them informing them of my survey with the informed consent form. They had 3 weeks to respond to the survey. I actually, when I created the survey, their first question had to put their last name in order to make sure that I was eliminating error and they weren't taking the survey twice. And then after that, they were giving codes for the rest of the data. So this is part of my survey. It's on a couple of the slides. So your last name, what position you play, what year you are, your age, and then it says if you ever had a concussion in the past, if so, when, if it was soccer related, and then if you sustained a concussion this season, and when, and then how it occurred if they sustained one this season. And then these were the main questions. I got my data from the ones that sustained a concussion. So they had to rate their symptoms immediately following their concussion if they sustained one this season. So I got 0 to 10, 0 being none, and 10 being the worst ever. So they had headache, confusion, ringing in the ears, dizziness, mood swings, loss of consciousness, nausea, vomiting, difficulty remembering things, difficulty concentrating, sensitive light, difficulty sleeping. And then they also had the same thing, and this asked them their symptoms at the time of the survey. So if they had any symptoms when they were taking the survey, and they answered the same symptoms. And then the last one was if they had anything that prevented them from returning to play or affected their daily activities if they sustained a concussion this season. So my results, I had 5 females who previously had a concussion sometimes in the past. I had 2 who had a concussion this season. One of the girls had 2 concussions during the season. And the 2 mechanisms with the 2 girls was head to ground contact and head to soccer ball contact. And both of the girls played midfield. And the head to ground contact had more severe symptoms than the head to soccer ball contact. And this is just a graph, and it shows you the 2 mechanisms they had. And this one is how many of them on the left is previous concussion. So the dark blue is the 5 that have, and no is the light blue. And then the right is if they had a concussion this season. And then this one is comparing the symptoms between the 2 head to ground and head to soccer ball that happened this season. And the ones that they don't have a color on the right, that's because she didn't have any of those symptoms. This is the same thing, just the rest of them, because I couldn't fit all in one. So the head to ground had a lot more symptoms. And then the head to soccer ball contact that sustained a concussion this season She had 2 symptoms at the time of the survey, whereas the girl with the head to ground contact did not have any symptoms at the time of the survey. So I don't know if that just is from her concussion or it could be from something else. Discussion. Both for midfielders, so I was thinking about for further research I could look at position played and see if that affected if they got a concussion or not. So are midfielders more likely to than defensive players or forwards maybe? I could also look at other teams because I only got to work with one team. And then for limitations and delimitations, I only used one team. I only looked at females, and I only looked at a Division III team. My limitations would be the size of the team. There's only 21 girls on the team. Not all of the girls responded to the survey, so that limits how much data I could collect. And then playing time. If some of the girls don't play in games, are they gonna ever get a concussion? It would be less likely to get one. And then my conclusion is that my results are conclusive that I need more data because none of the girls sustained a concussion with head-to-head collision, which is what I was looking at. But the symptoms of the head-to-ground contact, which was more severe, that would kind of support it, as in that would have more impact than a head-to-soccer ball contact.